I want to start today by putting you in a very specific headspace. And honestly, you're probably already there.
Oh, yeah.
Picture this. It's 6:30 a.m. You're awake, but you haven't actually, physically gotten out of bed yet.
Hmm.
One eye is half open, and your hand, almost on autopilot, it just reaches for the nightstand. You grab the phone, and before your conscious brain has even decided to start the day, you are just bombarded.
It's the ritual, isn't it? The screen lights up and suddenly you're
And
processing.
it's not just processing, it's defense. You see a Slack message from your boss that came in at 11 p.m. You see a terrifying headline from the other side of the world.
Three texts waiting for you.
And suddenly your cortisol is spiking, your heart rate is up, and you are in what we call reactive mode. You're playing goalie against the world, blocking shots before you've even had a glass of water.
That's such a good way to put it. It's a distinct physiological state. You're immediately putting your attention outside yourself. Instead of checking in with yourself, how am I feeling? What do I need to do? You are immediately calibrating to everyone else's demands.
And that feeling, that low-level electrical hum of anxiety, that's just the baseline for modern life. Most of us just accept it.
You do.
We think, well, this is the price of admission for the 21st century. But the sources we are deep diving into today argue that this isn't just an annoyance. It is a fundamental design flaw in how we are operating our lives. And they propose a fix that is, honestly, shockingly low-tech.
It is. The source material for this deep dive is largely drawn from a text called The Analog Operating System. And at first glance, the premise seems almost regressive.
A little bit.
It argues that the most sophisticated piece of technology available to stabilize your mind isn't an AI assistant or some neural link. It's wood pulp. It's paper.
And look, I can hear the eyes rolling. I really can. You're thinking, okay, great. This is the part where you tell me to throw away my smartphone, move to a cabin, and start writing with a quill.
By candlelight, yeah.
But that's not what we're doing here. This isn't about nostalgia. I mean, I don't care about the smell of old books or the romance of ink.
No, and the source doesn't really care about that either. This is a pragmatic argument.
Right. The mission of this deep dive is to look at the philosophical and, surprisingly, the hard scientific argument for why paper is actually superior technology for very specific cognitive tasks. We are going to talk about why the most powerful man in the history of the world needed a notebook just to keep from going insane.
And we're going to get into the actual neuroscience of why typing on a keyboard simply does not register in your brain the same way writing by hand does.
But first, we have to diagnose the problem properly, because I think we all know we're distracted, but the source calls this the ecosystem of noise. And it points out a trap that, well, I fall into it constantly. They call it the irony of productivity.
This is such a crucial concept. When we feel overwhelmed by all the digital noise, too many emails, too many tasks, just too much information, what is our instinct?
We try to organize it. We download an app.
Exactly. We look for a digital solution to a digital problem. We download a task manager, a habit tracker, some complex note-taking system with, bidirectional linking.
Oh, I am the king of this. I feel scattered, so I spend 3 hours setting up a new productivity dashboard. And for a minute, I feel great. I feel productive. But then 2 days later, that dashboard is just another thing pinging me.
Yeah.
It's sending me notifications telling me I'm failing at my habits.
That is the irony. The source points out that these tools are part of the exact same noisy ecosystem that caused your anxiety in the first place. You're trying to cure a hangover with vodka because the vodka comes in a bottle labeled medicine.
That is a depressing but very accurate analogy.
I mean, if the core problem is that your brain is stuck in that reactive mode, triggered by screens and alerts, you cannot solve it with more screens. The source emphasizes that you need to disconnect to reconnect. Okay, the digital environment is engineered, and I mean literally engineered by some of the smartest people in the world, to keep you in a state of high alert beta waves.
It's that dopamine loop.
It's the dopamine loop. It's also just the medium itself. The glowing screen signals input. It signals urgency. So if you're trying to do deep thinking or calm your anxiety using the same device that delivers your stress, you're fighting a losing battle.
So we've established the digital ecosystem is the source of the noise. To find a solution, the source material takes us back about 2,000 years. And this is where we have to talk about Marcus Aurelius.
The philosopher king.
Now, most of our listeners know who he is. We don't need to do the whole Wikipedia bio. He's the Stoic poster boy. But I think we often forget the context of his life.
Right.
He wasn't sitting in a garden philosophizing. He was the emperor of Rome during one of its most chaotic periods. He was dealing with the Antonine Plague, Wars on the border, political betrayals. He was arguably the most stressed out man on planet Earth.
And he didn't have a therapist. He didn't have a Xanax prescription.
So what did he have? He had a notebook. We all know his book, Meditations. It's a classic. But the source points out something that I think is easy to gloss over, but it's actually the key to the whole thing.
What's that?
Meditations. It wasn't a book.
No. He never intended for it to be published. In fact, if he knew we were all reading it, he would probably be mortified. The original title of the manuscript was simply To Himself.
To himself. That framing changes everything for me. It wasn't performative. He wasn't trying to drop wisdom for future generations. So why was he writing?
He was engaging in what the text calls cognitive offloading.
Okay, let's dig into that. Cognitive offloading. It sounds like tech jargon, but what's the actual mechanism there?
So think of your brain like a computer's RAM, random access memory.
Got it.
It's your working memory. It's incredibly fast, but it has a very, very limited capacity. So if you're holding on to every worry about the plague and every political strategy and every frustration with your generals...
And every philosophical idea all at once?
Right. Your RAM is full. You're glitching. The spinning wheel is up.
So the act of writing wasn't about creating content. It was a dump.
Precisely. It was a cache dump. He was writing to get the thoughts out of his head and onto a substrate. And once they're on the paper, two things happen. First, you free up processing power in your brain. But second, and this is more important, you can now look at those thoughts objectively.
You're gaining distance.
Right. When a thought is in your head, you are the thought. It consumes you. When it's on the paper, it's an object. You can look at it. You can say, is this actually true? Or am I just tired? The source argues that Aurelius wasn't writing to be read. He was writing to stay sane. It was a survival mechanism.
I think that's where a lot of people get hung up on journaling. I know I do. I sit down and I think, I need to write something profound.
What if someone reads this?
Yeah, what if someone reads this and thinks I'm just whining? But if you reframe it as I am offloading my RAM so I don't crash, it becomes a utility. It's maintenance.
It's hygiene, mental hygiene. And that brings us to the pivot in the source material. Because we can talk about Stoic philosophy all day and it makes intuitive sense. But the source says, no, wait. This isn't just a spiritual exercise. Aurelius was accidentally performing a biological hack.
And this is where we bring in the neuroscience, because I think the biggest skepticism people have, and I have it too, is, okay, sure, writing is good, but I can type 90 words per minute. I can type as fast as I think. Isn't typing just a more efficient form of writing?
And the answer from the research is a resounding no.
Yeah.
They are not just different speeds. They are entirely different neurological processes.
But why? I mean, words are words, right? If I type I am anxious or I write I am anxious, the information is the same.
The information on the page is the same. But the activity in your brain is totally different. The source describes typing as a shallow motor skill.
Shallow?
Think about how you type. It's binary. You hit a key, the letter appears. You don't have to think about the shape of the A. You don't have to coordinate pressure or angles. In fact, if you're a good typist, you can do it while looking out the window or even holding a conversation. It's linguistically processed, but it's physically automatic.
Okay, I see that. Versus handwriting.
Handwriting is a complex cognitive task. It's what neuroscientists call spatial linguistic. You aren't just selecting a letter, you're constructing it. Your hand has to move in a specific geometry to create an A. This requires fine motor control, hand-eye coordination. It just engages a much larger percentage of the brain's surface area.
So because it's harder, the brain pays more attention.
Exactly. And this connects to a specific mechanism the source highlights. The reticular activating system, or the RAS.
Okay, the RAS. We need to break this down. I always imagine the RAS as a kind of bouncer at a club.
That is the perfect analogy. Your brain is the club. Outside the velvet rope, there are millions of sensory inputs trying to get in every single second.
The feeling of my socks, the hum of the fridge.
The color of the wall, the memory of what you had for breakfast. If you let all of that in at once, you'd have a psychotic break. You'd be completely overwhelmed.
So the RAS is the bouncer deciding who's on the list.
Right. It filters out the noise so you can focus on the signal. Now, here is the hack. How do you tell the bouncer that a specific piece of information, say a goal you have or a worry you're trying to process, is a VIP? How do you get it past the rope?
I'm guessing typing doesn't impress the bouncer.
Typing is too easy. The bouncer ignores it. But handwriting, because it requires that complex spatial focus we just talked about, it sends a high priority signal to the RAS. The physical effort signals importance.
So when I write down, I need to focus on this project, I'm literally programming my brain's filter to look for things related to that project.
Yes, you are waking up the RAS. The source lists some fascinating outcomes of this. For one, writing down your worries by hand is shown to lower cortisol levels significantly more than typing them.
Because you've signaled that the threat is now handled.
You've externalized it with effort. Your brain registers the transfer. But on the flip side, writing down goals by hand increases the likelihood of achieving them. Not because of manifesting or some kind of magic,
Right.
but because you've alerted the RAS. Now, as you go through your day, your brain is subconsciously scanning the environment for opportunities to make that goal happen. It's pattern matching.
That makes so much sense. If I type a goal in my Notes app, it feels like data. It feels like a grocery list. If I write it in a lecture with a nice pen, it feels like a contract.
It creates a mental weight. And
Mhm.
that's what we are missing in the digital world. Everything is weightless. Everything feels temporary. Paper gives your thoughts gravity.
So we have the problem, the digital noise. We have the philosophy cognitive offloading, and we have the mechanism, the RAS. Now I want to talk about the solution, because the source does something really clever here. They rebrand the humble notebook.
They do. They call it the paper hard drive or the
Okay.
analog operating system.
And I love this section because they list the specs of this system, like they're reviewing the new MacBook Pro. And honestly, the specs are pretty competitive.
Let's run through them. Feature 1, 0 latency.
You open the cover, it's on. No boot up time. No Face ID failing because you're wearing sunglasses.
Feature 2, infinite battery life.
Crucial. I have never had a notebook die on me mid-epiphany.
And feature 3, 100% privacy.
That one is actually becoming a major selling point. No one is scraping my paper journal to train an AI model. No one is targeting ads based on the insecurities I wrote down last night.
But the most important feature, and the source stresses this, is the user experience. The text says, it does not ping you. It waits for you.
It waits for you. That hit me hard when I read it because every other tool I own is demanding. My phone, my laptop, my watch, they're all nagging me. They want my attention. A notebook is completely passive. It serves me. I don't serve it.
And that passivity is what allows for a different brain state. The source talks about the shift from beta waves to alpha waves.
Okay, let's demystify alpha waves. I usually associate alpha with, wolves or gym bros or something, but that's not what we're talking about.
No, totally different context. In neuroscience, beta waves are what you're in right now.
Yeah.
Alert, active, maybe a little stressed. It's the get things done frequency.
Okay.
Alpha waves are slower. They're associated with wakeful relaxation. It's the state you're in just before you fall asleep or when you're daydreaming in the shower.
The shower thought state. That's where the good ideas come from.
Exactly. And screens tend to keep us in beta. The blue light, the flickering refresh rates, the constant stimulation that locks us in high alert. But paper is non-emissive. It reflects light. It doesn't emit it.
Right.
The source suggests that using analog tools, especially for morning planning or evening reflection, helps induce that alpha state. You are physically slowing your brain down.
So it's not just about writing stuff down. It's about creating a sanctuary in time. If I open my laptop in the morning, I am immediately in the world's timeline. If I open a notebook, I'm on my timeline.
That's the crucial distinction. The source calls the notebook the ultimate tool for the modern Stoic. And bringing it all back to Aurelius, I think the argument holds up. We are living in an environment that is hostile to focus.
Hostile is the right word. It's aggressive.
It is. And trusting your peace of mind to the very machines that are creating the chaos is, well, it's just illogical. We tried to solve the problem of too much information with tools that give us even more information.
Yeah.
The analog operating system is a strategic retreat. It's a tool that restricts information flow. And in a world of abundance, restriction is a superpower.
I think that's really the core of it. We often equate new with better. We think if it has a microchip, it must be superior to the thing made of tree bark. But evolution doesn't work that way. Sometimes the old tool is still the right tool because our biology hasn't changed.
Exactly.
My brain is basically the same as Marcus Aurelius's brain.
We are running ancient hardware, our brains, in a modern environment. And sometimes, to get the best performance out of that hardware, you need to use the inputs it was designed for.
Right.
We were designed to manipulate physical objects. We were designed to make marks with our hands. We were not designed to stare into light sources and tap glass.
So let's bring this home for everyone listening. We've covered a lot of ground. We started with that morning anxiety, the reactive mode. We looked at how Marcus Aurelius used writing not as a hobby, but as a mental survival tactic.
And we saw the science. that handwriting physically alerts the reticular activating system in a way that typing just doesn't, allowing you to filter your reality better.
And we looked at the paper hard drive as this privacy-focused, zero-latency device that helps you shift into a creative alpha state. But I want to be clear, and the source is clear on this too, we are not Luddites.
No. Please, keep your phone. I need GPS. I need to be able to look up recipes. This isn't about rejection. It's about assignment. Assigning the right job to the right tool. If you need to send a message to a colleague in Tokyo, use email. It's a miracle. But if you need to figure out why you're feeling a knot of dread in your stomach, or what you really want to do with your life over the next 5 years, a computer is the wrong tool.
It's a hammer when you need a scalpel.
That's it. I love that. Use the tech for speed, use the paper for depth, don't confuse the two. And I think there is one final, somewhat provocative thought from the source that's worth leaving everyone with. It circles back to our emperor friend.
Let's hear it.
The source poses this question. Marcus Aurelius was the most powerful man on earth. He could have had anyone listen to him.
Well,
but he realized that to maintain his sanity, he needed a place where he could be completely disconnected and completely honest.
right.
He needed a hard drive that was separate from the world. So the question is, if the Emperor of Rome couldn't handle the weight of the world just by keeping it in his head, why do you think you can?
That is uncomfortable.
And furthermore, if you don't have a disconnected place to think, if every thought you have is mediated by a screen that can interrupt you, are you ever actually thinking? Or are you just reacting?
Are you driving the car, or are you just a passenger in the algorithm?
Exactly.
Well, on that existential note, I think I'm going to go buy a pen. Thanks for listening to this deep dive. We'll catch you in the next one.